Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Average Joe Dividends YouTube channel. This video is portfolio update number 230. Hard to believe we've done so many of these videos. Time just flies by. What I do every Monday morning, like today, is I deposit $250 of my own money into this taxable brokerage account. This is my Average Joe Dividends portfolio, and I've been adding to this for quite a while now. We'll go to the old time here, get a little bit of history on this. So I started this portfolio back in 2017. You can just see with just a couple $100, you can see how it's gone up and up. Here I had some money to deposit a larger amount because I had equity in a home that I no longer own, and I put that to work in this portfolio. But you can see even after that jump, this portfolio, for the most part, has gone up and to the right, just like the market has done. Of course, we've had a few things where the news of the tariffs kind of pushed the portfolio down. We went up into the 320s for a little bit, but now we're right about 315. And we'll take a look at the last year performance of the portfolio. We can see the money weighted return rate at 9.75%. Pretty much matching what the overall market is doing. And the reason why I do this portfolio is this portfolio has a higher return with dividends. This portfolio yields about 4%, and the yield on my cost is over 5%. So that's why I have this as part of my investment strategy. This is not all of my investments. Most of my investments are in Vanguard ETFs like VU and VTI, and then Charles Schwab with SCHD. As a matter of fact, most of this portfolio consists of SCHD, but I also have individual holdings in here as well. You can see SCHD is the largest. The second largest is BST, which is a covered call strategy, which is actually done better than SCHD, at least for me when I've bought it. So, but I also have individual positions that SCHD does not have, like Nvidia and things like Broadcom, which used to be in SCHD but is no longer in there. So I want some growth in there, and I also want to kind of hand pick some of the dividend paying companies that I think are going to be a good long-term strategy. So enough of that. We're going to do is we're going to go into the activity log. But before we do that and go over the buys, please click the like button just for the transparency and the time I take to show you guys what I'm doing and showing you the history of this portfolio. You can go back to my first video in January 2021 and see what my dividends were then. Also, you'll be able to see that on my Google Docs spreadsheet as well. I also recommend subscribing to the channel so you can see my other videos. I do a budgeting video, and I'll do some other miscellaneous videos like kind of going over the dividends I receive from my larger ETFs like SCHD, and also go over my holdings and my IRAs and 401k as well. So we can see here's the deposit. Like I said, every Monday morning, $250 transfers out of my over here in my M1 savings account, and I just do that on auto transfer to it. So every Monday morning this happens, and what I do is I use auto invest, but what I do for $100 of that $250 is I pick 5 companies to put $20 into each of those. So in the buys where you see it's $20 even, those are Average Joe selections. The other selections, I'll point them out, are going to be auto invest, and where that money goes is going to be into the underweighted portions of the portfolio. What I mean by that is I can select my target percentage for each of the slices. So you can see the ETFs portion, that's underweighted by 0.3%. And the dividend portfolio, that appears to be overweighted, and then we're underweighted by 0.4% in the 10 more dividends. So chances are the money probably rolled into this section right here. And if you're curious to see what's all in this portfolio, I'll leave a link below so you can see the slices and also the individual companies that are in this portfolio. So we'll go to the 11 buys here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on each of these. We're going to see the fractional shares that are purchased for each of these. Then when we're done doing that, we're going to go to my Google Docs spreadsheet and we're going to see what the next dividends are going to be for each of these. So we're going to go over some historicals and also my total net worth. I'll show you where the other 85% of my net worth is invested. This is about 15% of it in this dividend portfolio. And again, it's just part of my strategy. I know some people are just they're all or nothing, dividend portfolio and nothing else. That's not my strategy at all. I like to have this as obviously for income generation, but I also want to have more growth in there as well. But again, we'll touch on that a little bit later. So first up, Microsoft. Again, anything that's $20 is going to be my selection. This $20 bought 0.03913 of a share of Microsoft. And American Express, this is part of the 150 that went into auto invest into the underweighted portions of the portfolio. Remember that in the 10 more dividends, American Express is in that portion and looks like most of it's going to go there with the 8143 of the 150 buying 0.22821 shares of American Express. Then next up, BlackRock. This is part of that 150 and also part of that 10 more dividend slice, buying a very, very tiny portion of BlackRock. We'll see if the next dividend goes up for BlackRock. It may not even go up by a penny with this tiny purchase, but $8.03 buying 0.00764 of a share of BlackRock. The reason is, look at that share price, $1,050 there. That's why it's buying such a tiny sliver of BlackRock. Kimberly-Clark, they had some big news with their acquisition, and that dropped the share price there. They're buying, the parent company that owns Tylenol, and I know there's some news about that with the whole link to autism and things like that. But I believe in Kimberly-Clark and even their acquisition for them, long term, I think, at least in my opinion, is a good buy. So $20 going to Kimberly-Clark, buying 0.19285 of a share of KMB. The next up, Yum Brands, $20, another one of my selections, buying 0.13409 of a share of Yum Brands. You can see, though, even all these fractional share buys, they will make a difference. We will see, again, those next dividends go up. And then Qualcomm, this is the other part. It looks like American Express, BlackRock, and Qualcomm. These are part of the underweighted where the 150 went into with Auto Invest. So Qualcomm, 6053 of the 150, buying 0.34981 of a share of Qualcomm. There was a time Qualcomm was way down and then it rebounded, so it's doing pretty good right now. Pepsi, $20. Still, Pepsi's been struggling. Of course, Kimberly-Clark has been struggling, and even more so with the acquisition. So Pepsi, $20, buying 0.13665 of a share of Pepsi. I'd like to see, I'm buying not all the 250s going into one company. It's spreading around into this portfolio, and I'd like to see that. So this is a dividend drip, Costco, $4.66. This is one of the dividends that rolled in on Saturday. And that $4.66 buying a very tiny share, kind of like BlackRock, 0.00507 of a share of Costco. You can see here are the dividends that rolled in. Costco is at $4.66 like we saw. Realty Income, for some reason, it's split it into two, $1.08 and then $13.98. And then AbbVie, that nice dividend of $45.28. And then, of course, next up, there's that $45.28 being put to work. And I have these companies set up to drip those dividends received right back into the company that paid them, except for three exceptions there, SCHD, BST, and then also NVIDIA. Those will go in as cash and go into the underweighted portion of the portfolio. The reason is I kind of want to spread the wealth a little bit out, especially with that BST, because that's a non-qualified dividend. And I kind of want to have the other companies kind of do some of the lifting, where BST is the one that does the heavy lifting month after month after month. So you'll see that at the end of this month, that big dividend from BST is going to be sprinkled into the rest of the portfolio. So that 45.28 of AbbVie, that dividend drip buying 0.19344 of a share of AbbVie. That's been a nice investment. AbbVie is one of those investments where it pays a good dividend today, has good growth, and also the stock appreciation has been there too. This has been one of those. It's kind of like the trifecta. It's kind of done it all for me for AbbVie. So will it do it long term? I don't know. I think it will, but it's one of those ones where it's kind of got it all, at least for now. And here's Realty Income. This is another dividend payer that is a non-qualified dividend payer because it's a REIT. It's a real estate investment trust. And this paid me $15.06. It's a monthly payer. And this paid me the $15.06 dividend drip, bought 0.26512 of a share of Realty Income. So I'm just adding more and more shares of these companies every single week. Then last up is Broadcom. This has been a good grower for me. It doesn't pay a high dividend now, but it has a double-digit dividend increase history, and it's, I think, tripled or quadrupled in price for me. So Broadcom's been an outstanding one. But again, the only knock could be that the current dividend yield is not very high. So $20. And that bought me 0.05702 of a share of Broadcom. So we're going to go to the holdings tab. We're going to come back to this, but before we do, we're going to go to my Google Docs spreadsheet where I track all the positions in the portfolio. You can see these different shades of green in here. And the reason I have that, here's the color key. We are in the month of November. So we are in the second month of Q4. You can see October, November, December. That's Q4. So we're in the second month. And then in Q4, month 3, December, that's where I'm going to get my big dividends, because most of my companies pay their dividends in the third quarter. So you can see most of my companies are in the dark green. But here we are in the medium green. You can see our 2 monthly payers here with O and BST. I put them in blue, and like the color coding to kind of show you what's what. You can see here's the company ticker symbol. Here's the current share price using the Google Finance function to pull that live. Here is the average share price I've paid for each share of, say, Merck right here. And then here's the total number of shares I own. Here's the current value if I were to sell Merck. Here is the cost basis. Here is the gain or loss in dollars. Here it is in a percentage. Anything above or 25% or above will be in green. Anything below 0 will be in the red. You can see we have a couple losers with HP, Kimberly-Clark, and looks like Pepsi is in the green. So, yep, just barely in the green. They were in the red last week for part of it at least. But here is the dividend per share. I've marked SDHD in purple because it's variable every single quarter. ETFs are that way. Like VTI VU, SDHD is no exception. They announce a different dividend every single quarter. But like in Allstate, usually it's the same with a dividend raise once a quarter per year. And then here is the current yield, like for Allstate. Current yield, if I were to buy more Allstate, it'd be that 1.88%. Here's my yield on cost. The reason why my yield on cost is higher is because my average share price I purchased Allstate is at $142.46. So I'm getting more dividends as a result with my money because I bought the shares at a lower rate. And then here is the pay date. Everything on this sheet is sorted by the pay dates from A to Z. So we can see right where we're at right now. We're in November. Here are the dividends received so far. We've received $163.96. Tomorrow is going to be the 18th. I will receive a dividend from Procter & Gamble. I will wake up to this dividend being in my account. We'll see if it's going to be this amount, because I could have bought some fractional shares of Procter & Gamble after the ex-dividend date. So I'll do a quick check and we'll put that amount in there once I find it, because this section has a lot of companies in it. It has most of the individual positions in here. We'll filter it by the 1 month, and it'll show the dividends earned 1172. So it looks like there was just a tiny bit off for that. And then we'll do is we'll put a plus 1172 because I track the dividends there. We can see with the last dividend it was 1150, the one before that was 1130, 1058, etc. You can see the first dividend was $1.89. The second one looks like I didn't drip that dividend in there, another 189, 208, 208. So you can see though, every single quarter just about it's going up and up and up. And something else that happens is every April, Procter & Gamble has pretty much been clockwork. They do a dividend increase. The last one was 5%. So I'm going to show you a little graphic here I created, and do F11 here, see if you guys can see this. You may cut off part of it, but I'd used AI to create a little image. Hopefully you can see it all, but it has a little machine that says dividend portfolio, and there's 3 levers you can use to increase your dividends, and that's deposits, which are of course are buys, drips, and then increases. And right now I'm pulling all 3 levers in this dividend portfolio, the average Joe dividends portfolio, to create the cash flow. So I kind of want to show you guys that real quick. I may use that graphic in my thumbnails and stuff like that. I'm not very creative, so I used AI there to create that cute little graphic to show those 3 levers that I use in this portfolio. And I was just describing the one lever with the dividend increases, and of course the drip tomorrow, that's the other lever. It looks like I bought a tiny bit with the 2-cent difference, so there was a tiny fraction of Procter & Gamble that I bought that increased it by 2 cents there. So we'll do a count up. So far we'll be at 175.68. I'll put that in the dividend tracker tab real quick and we'll come back to this. But what we want to do though is we want to update this sheet over here. What I did was I put in the current dividend for like Yum Brands. Remember, $20 went into that. Part of the 150 auto investment into BlackRock. So these are the dividends that are going to go up. And one of them, American Express, I think, yeah, they already paid. So we're past the ex-dividend date because it paid on the 11th. But we're going to see that go up. So I'm writing down 776 is the next dividend, but we're going to see this go up when I update the sheet, as well as Microsoft in there, and then Qualcomm, and then Pepsi. We're also going to see the cash flow average, the monthly cash flow average, the quarterly, and the annual are going to go up. So I like to track this and follow this and update it because this is my monthly paycheck. On average, I'm receiving $1,119.82. We're going to see this go up because of, let me go over here, we had these events. Costco, AbbVie, dividend drips, and $250 deposits. So we're going to have a new amount going here. But to update the sheet, we have to go over here to the Holdings tab. I'm going to grab everything from the name column. Grab that bit of data. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing all the data for the holdings, the number of shares, the average share price, and the cost basis. And there's a VLOOKUP that's over on this sheet. And again, I'll leave a link below to this sheet. You're welcome to look at it. Of course, you won't be able to edit it. You'll be able to look at it. But see the average share price, the VLOOKUP, and the M1 data tab. We're going to paste this data into the M1 data tab, number of shares coming from the M1 data tab, and the cost basis as well. So those 3 data points, VLOOKUPs on the M1 data tab, we're going to see these amounts again change for the next dividend for all the buys, and down here as well. It's going to automatically happen. Pay special values only. Just change that. You can see SCHD is the first one, but it's not going to change any of those because we did not buy any more shares of SCHD. We're going to go over the ones where we did and look at the next dividend, because week after week, just small incremental changes, just again by the deposits, drips, and increases, it just keeps going up and up and up. So first up, Yum Brands at $20. It moved the old dividend from $8.70 to now the new dividend will be, this will be in December 13th approximately, because it's going to be 3 months from now for all of these. It's going to be $8.80 now. Same for BlackRock. That small amount moving from $11.33. Remember that tiny fractional share we bought, but it still added 4 cents to the next dividend, to from $11.33 to $11.37. And then Broadcom moving from $9.36 to $9.40. Of course, these are baby steps because look at the yield. It was $20 buying into a 0.68% yield. So it's slow going with these small or lower yielding ones. But look at the last dividend increase from Broadcom last December was 11%. So you got to keep that in mind. So Kimberly-Clark moving from 2018 to 2043. And then we had one from American Express. Remember, it was $7.76, and now it's going to be $7.95. So really moving up that American Express. And hopefully in March we get something like a 15% dividend increase. I want to get this one above the $10 mark. That's why some of these are in green. Any of these that are above or $10 or above, they move to the green. Next up, Microsoft. Again, we're buying into a small yield from $7.51 to $7.54. Qualcomm moving from $11.51 to $11.82. Pepsi moving from $28.10 to $28.29. And we'll look at the monthly cash flow average moving from $1,119.82 to $1,120.39. The quarterly moving from $3,359.47 to $3,361.17. And then the annual, it's like the annual paycheck here, or annual salary, moving from $13,437.88 to $13,444.70. So we're going to take that new monthly cash flow average of $1120.39. We'll put it here, and we can see, again, with these events that we had today with the Costco AbbVie Dividend Drips $250 deposit, it added an additional 57 cents of monthly income to the portfolio. But you can see every couple days, sometimes I have multiple events in one day. You can see there's 25 cents added with the American Express dividend drip. Then Aflac had a 5.2% dividend increase. You can see on the 12th, ADP just had a 10% dividend increase. So again, back to these levers, it's showing, deposits, drips, and increases all here, these events. Those are the three events. Of course, there is a bad event, which is a dividend cut or suspension. And any time that happens, if there's a dividend cut or a freeze, something like that, I'm going to remove that from my portfolio. So it would be a one-time event in here if that does happen, because that company's going to be gone. The exception would be SCHD, because I think there could be some times where the dividend could fluctuate a little bit because they reconstitute what's in the portfolio. I don't do a reconstitution with my portfolio. I have pretty simple rules in them, and pretty much the main one is if that dividend is cut or suspended, that stock will be sold. But maybe if something's really underperforming, maybe in its sector, and I see something better, I may get rid of it, or it's just a problem child. I thought Starbucks was a problem child. For me, they're in the news a whole lot. There's talks of unions. It gets political. I just didn't want anything more to do with it. I got rid of it. It was underperforming as well. I think my money is in better investments. And I think Starbucks has an excellent product. I just don't know. Just the way they're run sometimes I question. So I got the heck out of it. So let's take a look at the dividend tracker tab. You can see January 2019. That's why I kind of did some historicals, at least on this tab. We went over the historicals over here when I started with the $200 pretty much. It was like a $100 deposit way back here. Let's see if we can find the first one. Yeah, right about here, September 2017. And I started tracking the dividends. Go back here, right here in January 2019. And then you can see how I had some deposits starting again right here. March 2019, we'll go to where we're at right now. November. Here is the current portfolio value at $314,400. I round it down to the nearest $100 you can see right there. Here are the dividends paid so far in November. We're not close to being done. I'll show you what remains. It's just a few, really. We'll go over here. So here's our last two, our Caterpillar and BST. Of course, that's the one that rolls in tomorrow morning. And we'll see this next dividend is going to go up as a result of that dividend reinvestment from Procter & Gamble. So let's go back to the dividend tracker. And then here's that 11/20/39. I've been tracking the average monthly dividend. And the reason why I did average monthly dividend is you can see it's lumpy. What happens is on the last month of each quarter, it pays the highest. You can see low, low, high. This is the last month of the quarter. First month, second month, third month. So every March, June, September, and December is going to do the same thing. So what I do is I take that dividend, the next dividend, and then I have to add in the monthly payers twice, which are BST and O. And so I get a total for the quarter. Then I divide that by 3 to get the monthly, to kind of get a smooth dividend there, and so I can show that progress. So far in November, I've increased the average monthly dividend by $4.17 for a month-over-month gain of 0.37%. And then here's those annual dividends. I've increased those annual dividends in the month of November alone by $50.06. We added an additional $2.50, so we're up to $7.50 right there. So we're going to close this video out. We're going to go to my total net worth statement. And like I said, what's over here, average Joe dividends portfolio, this is about 15% of my current net worth. Let's go over the other 85%. Over at Vanguard, I have an IRA over there, and the remnants of a taxable brokerage account. Right now, that's right about $331K. Here is my 401K, current employer, about $123K right there. And then here is my IRA I have over at M1 Finance. That value is right about $784K. You can see, though, what these foundations are. They're in ETFs like VYM, VTI. Little international exposure with VXUS. But again, more VU, VTI, SDHD, and some more BST in the IRA as well. Then here is the line for my dividend portfolio. You can see over here, I'm putting the 12-month trailing dividend so I can get an average monthly dividend. So if I just want to withdraw the dividends and interest, and you can see here's my savings account right here. All the money, the $250 deposits, they're coming from here, and they're going into here. Then here is like my emergency fund. I've put in quite a bit of money, about $65K of my cash into 2 deposits. I still do have this liquid. So over at Synchrony, right about $94K. You can see I got the first interest payments on this CD was $171.32. So on the 24th of this month, I'll get another 170 something. It's going to keep going up as I'm locked into that 4.25%, and it's just going to compound on it. And then I'll get my first interest payment on this one the 28th of November off the $15,000. It'll be like $50-ish, I'm sure, right around there. But you can see the average monthly dividend and then interest as well, what my interest payments will be. So if I wanted to live off of just interest and dividends alone, it would be almost $3,500. Of course, I don't have access to my IRA 401k. I'm not 59 and a half yet, 52 currently, so have a few years. And of course, with 7 years plus of that, it's going to be compounding even more. This is going to go up a lot more. But here is my total net worth. Of course, I skipped over At Capital One, a little more cash over there. Here's my home value according to Zillow, probably inflated, maybe a little bit. Here's my liabilities. You can see here's the second part of my fence payment. It's riding right now on the card, but I will pay that off before it's due, so I do not accrue any interest. And it's going to come right from here in the Capital One savings. I'll just push that over and pay these off before they're due, so no interest will be paid there. Here's my total net worth. I was above the 2 million mark. I was a multi-millionaire for a little while. Not anymore. Can't control that though. The only thing I can control is, what I earn and what I save and what I invest. So I concentrate on that. I think long term, it takes care of itself if you do that. But here's my dynamic 4% rule withdrawal. If I were 59.5, technically I could safely withdraw this annually or this monthly. You saw it move there. It's dynamic because it's based off of what my current net worth is. I think a lot of people, what they do with the 4% rule is they draw a line in the sand saying, well, I have $1 million in investments. I'm going to safely withdraw $40,000 every year and then add in a, for cost of living, things like that, or inflation, about 3%, every year. The 4% rule states you can do that safely, or pretty safely. So this with a dynamic, so if the market drops by 50%, well, my monthly withdrawal will be a lot smaller, but I've got my expenses so low that it's not going to be a problem, even if the market drops that much. If it goes even more than that, well, I could use some cash for a little while. It's probably not going to happen forever, so I could do it that way. And here's the breakdown: stocks, home equity, and cash. And then pre-tax, after-tax, U.S. and international. You can also look at my total net worth, how that's gone up since November 2022. And just, pretty big difference between then and now. And you can see how that's gone up. And it wasn't because of a huge amount in what I'm earning. I make a pretty, I make decent money, but I'm not a high earner at all. You can see my W-2 net, and here's my expenses. And this just counts my W-2 job. It doesn't count anything else I'm doing, even my dividends and things like that. Any side income whatsoever. But I also track the gap as well. I recommend you guys do that as well. Take that gap and of course invest it. And that's going to help you guys out and of course grow your net worth. So that's all I had to show you guys for this video. Hope you guys had a great weekend. And if you got value from this video, please click the like button. Also subscribe so you do not miss future videos. Again, here's these buys. It's Microsoft, American Express, BlackRock, Kimberly-Clark, Yum, Qualcomm, Pepsi, Costco, AbbVie, Realty Income, and Broadcom. Let me know in the comments below what you are going to be buying this week. Thanks again, everyone.